Good afternoon everyone. This is the part 3 of our report entitled Stage of Intimacy and Isolation from 18 or 20 to 40 years old. The 6 of Erickson's 8 and what he considers the major issue of young need and what intimacy. That is the need to make deep personal commitments others. If they are unable or afraid to do this, it may become isolated and self-absorbed. The sense of identity developed during adolescence enables young adults to fuse their identity with that of others. Young adults resolve conflicting demands of intimacy, competitiveness, and distance and develop an ethical sense. They are ready to enter into a loving, heterosexual relationship with the ultimate aim of providing a nurturing environment for children. The virtue that develops during young adulthood is the virtue of love, or mutuality, or devotion between partners who have chosen to share their lives. People also need a certain amount of temporary isolation in order to think through is intimacy versus solution. According to Erickson, some important choices on their own as young adults resolve the often conflicting demands of intimacy, competitiveness, and distance. They develop an ethical sense with which Erickson considers the mark of an adult. The consequences of adults' attempts at reaching out to make contact with others may result in intimacy, or else in isolation from close parental relationships. Stage of generativity and stagnation from 40 to 60 years. Virtue to be developed is equivalent to care. At about age 40, according to Erickson, people go through their 7th crisis, that of generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is the concern of mature adults for establishing and guiding the next generation. Looking ahead to the waning of their lives, people feel a need to participate in a continuation of life. If this need is not met, Erickson says people become stagnant, inactive, or lifeless. People's impulse to foster the development of the young is not limited to guiding their own children. It can be expressed through such activities as teaching and mentorship, a mutually fulfilling relationship that satisfied a younger protege need for guidance as well as an older person's generativity needs. Generativity can also take the form of productivity or creativity, or self-generation, the further development of personal identity. Next is the stage of integrity and despair, from 60 to till death. In his 8th and final crisis, integrity versus despair, Erickson sees older people as confronting the need to accept the way they have lived their lives in order to accept approaching death. They struggle to achieve a sense of integrity, of coherence and wholeness of their lives rather than give way to despair over their inability to relive their lives differently. People who succeed in this final integration thus building on the outcomes of the wave's previous crisis gain a sense of the order and meaning of their lives within the larger social order past, present, and future. In this stage, one looks back on what it has been and one looks ahead to the unknown, which is death. The virtue that develops during this stage is wisdom, an informed and detached concern with life itself, in the face of death itself. Thus, wisdom is an important psychological resource of adulthood as well as intellectual strength. The person who does not achieve such acceptance is overwhelmed by despair, realizing that time is too short to try out alternatives to integrity, while integrity must outweigh despair for the successful resolution of this crisis. Despair is inevitable. According to Erickson, sense of mourning not only for the misfortune and lost opportunities of one's own life, but for the vulnerability and transience of the human condition. Yet life is also a time to play, to recapture a childlike quality, which is essential for creativity. Although the time for procreation is over, creation can still take place, even As the body's function weaken and sexual energy diminishes, people can enjoy an enriched bodily and mental experience, says Erickson. Educational implications. Because the human infant is born in a condition of complete dependence, adults are tempted to exploit the period of dependency and to control and manipulate children to satisfy their own needs. Between 1/2 and 3 years, children can be trained to form correct toilet habits by being shamed every time they make a mistake. From 3 to 6, children can be made to comply with certain demands by making them feel guilty. If adults control and manipulate children in such ways, children are prevented from achieving normal social development. Teachers at the preschool level, together with parents and other members of the immediate family, should allow the children to engage in considerable pre-experiment to encourage the development of autonomy but provide some guidance to reduce the possibility of the establishment of doubt. More specifically, teachers should doubly direct a child who is attempting something beyond his capabilities. Teacher in the kindergarten level should allow children considerable self-initiated activities and intervene only when a child infringes on the right others.